Hey everyone, just a little channel housekeeping before we get started. I'm almost at 200 subscribers and that's pretty awesome if you ask me. Also, we're almost to the month of December. That is the month of the holidays and you are going to see some holiday themed horror movies appear on the channel throughout. I'm also going to be debuting 3-minute horror question mark reviews, where I review movies that aren't necessarily horror. Also, I got a new mic for the voiceover parts. I think it sounds pretty good. Let me know what you think in the comments. And with that out of the way, let's get back to the show. Greetings friends and welcome back to the 3-Minute Horror Show. My name is Ben, your host, and I love horror movies. In fact, I watch the bad movies so that you don't have to. You're welcome. Today I'll be reviewing the movie The Swamp of the Ravens from 1974. This movie is a super crazy Mondo 70s Spanish horror movie with an extra helping of grime on the side.
Excellent!
This movie was directed by Spanish filmmaker Manuel Canos, who also directed some Tarzan movies, I guess. It was written by a guy named Santiago Moncada, who hasn't written anything that I've ever heard of before, and honestly, it all looks like some pretty horny stuff.
Ew.
The Swamp of the Ravens can be streamed here in Canada on Cultpix and Tubi. The floppy-haired Dr. Frosta is a scientist that officially works on genetic research, and in his spare time, he tries to solve the mysteries of life and death from his little shack in the middle of the swamp. One of the ladies at work doesn't trust him. She thinks he's a snake, and she's going to figure out what he's up to. He's fairly new in town, you see, and since they didn't have internet in the 70s, they didn't have any way of figuring out why he left the previous places he lived in. Maybe they also didn't own phones. Who knows? Frosta sees a panhandler playing a pan flute on his way to work. The beggar has some sort of skin condition all over his face and it looks painful. Frosta hands the guy a card saying that he can cure him at his shack in the swamp. No address or phone number or anything, but luckily, the guy seems to figure out where Frosta is on his own. I may never have heard of the writer or director of this Spanish film, but the guy who plays Dr. Frosta? Oh yeah, I've seen some of his work before.
Yep.
Ramiro Oliveras was a prolific Spanish actor with a career spanning decades. He was born in Madrid, Spain in 1941 and unfortunately passed away in 2023. His first acting credits were in the early 70s and he continued working on stage and screen until the early 2000s. He can be seen in many cult classic films, including Cannibal Apocalypse, The Other Side of the Mirror, Dark Tower, and Hundra. Rest in peace, Ramiro, and thanks for all the crazy stories that you've left here with us. Frosta's shack is pretty gross in a mad scientist sort of way. He has jars of preserved mutant babies everywhere, and I neither know how he got them or what they're for. He's got cages full of monkeys and buzzards as well, and this is where he performs his magic. Frosta kills the beggar and then starts his experiments. They don't work in this instance. The beggar stays dead, and Frosta's assistant, who is a zombie, chops him up and dumps the beggar parts in the swamp. We get a peek at just how many failures that Frosta has had as the swamp is littered with corpse bits. The zombie leaves a hand behind because zombies aren't very smart, and a buzzard picks it up. That buzzard drops it in public, setting off a police investigation. Meanwhile, Frosta's girlfriend is getting ready to leave him for her old boyfriend, who is an American singer, and a terrible one at that. And Frosta absolutely cannot have that. He's going to hang on to her one way or another. Contrary to what the title of this movie tells you, ravens do not typically live in the swamp. I know. How disappointing, right? Well, here's a list of some creatures that do live in the swamp. Gators, they live in the swamp. Anacondas, another swamp creature. Frogs, they're all over the swamp. Leeches, the swamp is crawling with them. Yoda, this guy definitely lives in the swamp. Alien swamp beast? Wrong. I don't care what his name is. That thing lives in a forest. Everyone hates Dr. Frosta. His coworker lady? She hates him. The police detective? Hates him. The beggar's buddy that is trying to blackmail him? Super hates him. The ex-girlfriend he kidnapped? You got it. She hates him. The American singer guy that she fell in love with? You better believe that he hates him. When he's not singing love songs to a robot, that is. This guy seems to like him, but he sucks, so no one really cares what he thinks. Will Frosta get his in the end? I'm not going to spoil the end of this story for you. Despite the blatant false advertising, I did not see one raven in this movie. This was still a pretty decent film. Now, we're definitely in so bad it's good territory with this movie. The characters are crazy, the script is bonkers, the plot is silly, but if you give it time, it will grow on you. Now, be forewarned, there is a scene with an autopsy that looks particularly realistic. I looked into it, and it actually was a real autopsy being performed on a real cadaver, so be aware of that before you go in.
Yikes!
That's kind of off-putting, especially when you factor in the bouncy disco beat that's playing in the background through most of the movie. Other than that, I recommend it.
Yes.
Despite the fact that there were no ravens, I rate The Swamp of the Ravens a 7 out of 10. As always, a link to my Letterboxd appears in the video's description. Please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe, as it really does boost my engagement and helps my channel grow. Smell you later, nerds!
And what difference is there between life and death?